What's up everybody, Jesse here, and today I have a brand new Zelda Mailbag for y'all. Now we're just going to jump right into the questions, start answering them. But remember, if you have questions that you would like answered in future Zelda Mailbags, then comment below, let me know what your questions are, and let me know what guests you would like to see featured on You Zelda Mailbags. So would you like to see RMFH, HMK, Commonwealth Realm, some of the other people return? Let me know in the comments below. Now let's get started. Alright, so I'm going to be reading these directly off the computer and the Zelda Amino app. So first question comes from Dixon Sider on YouTube, who asks, "Yes, I love the Zelda mailbags. Also, do you think DLC similar to that of Skyrim would also work for Zelda Wii U?" Now, this is kind of a no-brainer for me because if it got DLC similar to that of Skyrim, like I don't think Epona is going to be getting armor or anything. But in the terms of like weapons or side quests or like an expansion added on to the game, I think that could work perfectly. Say if there's 8 original dungeons in the game and then a year later they come out with DLC that adds 2 more dungeons, making it 10. I think that could work perfectly. It could be like the original game could be trying to defeat Ganondorf or something, and then once you defeat him, like one of his minions or underlings or like a King Bublin or Moblin or Bulblin, whatever you want to call them, ends up rising up to power, taking his throne, trying to resurrect him. Something like Agnahim, or whatever his name is from A Link to the Past, that wizard, somebody like Zant, getting more powerful with Ganondorf being away, and then trying to take the throne himself, trying to take over Hyrule, trying to resurrect Ganondorf. The whole resurrection of Ganondorf thing, it was the whole plot for A Link to the Past and some of the other Zelda games. So adding that in as DLC I think would be perfect, and it would be nice to see what kind of dungeons they could add in once you already have all of the weapons in the Zelda games. Because one of the dungeons that people look forward to the most is the in-game dungeon. Because usually you get 1 or 2 items that you use frequently throughout a dungeon, and you don't really necessarily need any of the other items. So if they created dungeons after you already have all the items, then once you go into those dungeons, if they make puzzles and enemies and stuff that can take use of all of your items, another in-game dungeon, but this would be like 2 or 3 in-game dungeons, and I think it would work out best for everybody. Obviously, it would be nice to get like upgradable weapons and armor and different tunics and stuff. I think they could just go crazy with DLC, and I would love it. Especially if you got more side quests and stuff. Next question comes from PlayStation 4 Gameplay, who asks, "If Nintendo NX fails, will they sell Zelda to PlayStation or Xbox?" I don't ever see that happening. Nintendo games like Zelda, Mario, they're worth more as a franchise. The characters, they're worth more than almost anything PlayStation has, anything Xbox has. If the NX fails and Nintendo goes into the third-party realm, I think they'll just focus on mobile games, and then they'll still continue to publish their own games, but they'll put them on PlayStation or Xbox. Maybe they'll make a deal with Sony or with Microsoft to put their games exclusively on those consoles for a while, kind of like we've seen a couple of years ago. Sega made an exclusive deal with Nintendo to only put Sonic games on the Nintendo platforms, even though before and even now you can play Sega Sonic games on PlayStation or Xbox or PC. But at the time they had that exclusive deal to where I think there was 3 Sonic games that were exclusively developed for Nintendo consoles. And I think we might see a deal like that between Sony and Nintendo, because they tried working out a deal before Sony even made the PlayStation. They were supposed to work together to make the Nintendo PlayStation, which was like a Super Nintendo that also played CDs but was more powerful or whatever. And I think that's something that we could see again. Maybe going forward, Nintendo and Sony would collaborate maybe on a console, and then Nintendo would exclusively put those games on Sony's console. Or maybe they would work out a deal to where instead of making a console in collaboration, they would just put their games on that platform. I don't think you would really see them selling any of the IPs that they own. And I have a video going into a lot more depth and a lot more detail than this that you can check out. I'll link it in the comments and in the description below, and also towards the end of this video for you to check out. Next question comes from Zelda Amino. Twilight Wolf asks, who's your favorite companion? My favorite companion or side character in the Zelda series would be a tie between Navi and Midna. Now, everyone thinks Navi or Navi, however you want to pronounce her name, is annoying, and I understand that, but I also made a video that was in defense of Navi, saying she's not the most annoying character, and it was basically a video of me defending her. Now, Majora's Mask, the whole point of that game was Link trying to hunt Navi and find her and see what happened to her, why she left, and kind of reconnect with her. But that never really happened in the game. You didn't see that actually come to be. So I would like a new Zelda game where Navi returns, maybe with the same Hero of Time or a different Link. And with Midna, we got to see Midna in her beast form, I guess you could say, but we never got to see her in her true form, really, until the end of the game. It would be nice if she was able to transform in and out, similar to how Link was towards the end of the game, where you could become a wolf or a human on will, just by the press of a button. If Midna could change back and forth, that would be really interesting. I don't want to see the return of Wolf Link at all, but I would love to see something to where Midna comes back. Maybe if she's in her imp form, she can fly around beside you, or if she's in her human Twilight form, her true form, then she can maybe walk beside you, or maybe there's a pendant or something Link can wear that'll have Midna like come out of it and then go back inside of it. Similar to how Navi would disappear whenever she wasn't in use, or Fi or Fi or whatever her name is would come in and out of the Master Sword. If there was a pendant or something that linked Hyrule to the Twilight Realm, like a Twilight Shard or something, and Midna could use that to go back and forth between the Twilight Realm and Hyrule, I think that would be amazing. Third question comes from YouTube. Tim Rinovich, and sorry if I mispronounced your name, asks, if Link could get married, who will marry him, Mallow or Ilia? Who do you think will marry him? To answer your question, I believe you're referring to Twilight Princess Link. I have a theory on who Ocarina of Time Link marries, and there's a really interesting debate there, because it could be like Princess Ruto, who already has a crush on him, Zelda, who I think would be the obvious choice, but I ended up saying Malon for Ocarina of Time Link. But I've never really thought about Twilight Princess Link. I think Ilia or Ilia, however you want to pronounce her name, would be the obvious choice. They're closer to age. I think that they just got so well together. They got along so well together in the game that I think that's the obvious choice, unless he ends up marrying Princess Zelda, which is always an option. My friend Amanda, who used to be a host on this channel, loves the idea of Link and Zelda being together. So if he got married to Zelda, then that would be awesome. This next question comes from Zelda Amino. Toonlink asks, what is your favorite Legend of Zelda game? That question cannot be answered. My favorite goes back and forth depending on what mood I'm in, and every Zelda game has a special place in my heart. A Link to the Past was the first Zelda game and the first video game that I ever played, and there's a lot of memories behind that with playing it with my mom and dad. Ocarina of Time was, I believe, the Zelda game that I played the most of, that got its hooks in me and made me question the lore and the backstory and want to actually invest in the Legend of Zelda series. Majora's Mask was like that next iteration of that. It just seemed like the next obvious step for the franchise to take. The side quests were amazing. Everything about that game I absolutely loved. The darker story, the darker tones. There's a lot of mystery behind it that I liked. The Wind Waker. I love the Wind Waker because whenever I played it, I was going through a rough time with a breakup. It was my first serious relationship. So when I was playing through it, it was kind of a way for me to escape. And then the same thing with Twilight Princess, where Twilight Princess was the first Zelda game that I actually looked up information on consistently every day when I was at school. I believe I was in 7th grade at the time. And I would constantly look up information about Twilight Princess. Details coming out, leaks, photos, rumors, everything. And then when it finally came out, I was going through another rough time in my life. And it was again a way for me to escape. And then with Skyward Sword, that was the next game that I invested time researching and trying to uncover all the secrets. That's how I came across the YouTube channel Earthbounding, which did something similar to what McIntyre Productions and myself, some of the other YouTubers are doing, where they posted information on Zelda Wii U, but this was before Commonwealth Realm, it was before HMK, it was before any of us even probably thought about doing YouTube or were very well known. And now with the Zelda Wii U, it's looking honestly like the open world, the different items that they've shown off, everything about it seems like it's going to be a top contender for that spot of the best Zelda game. The next question comes from YouTube. Nerby or Nerble TV, sorry if I mispronounced your name, asks, do you think that Majora's Mask in A Link Between Worlds was meant simply as an Easter egg, or do you think it has a deeper connection to the story? I think the obvious answer is it was just an Easter egg. It was put there to kind of reference or joke around, hint towards Majora's Mask 3D was in development. So maybe they were working with putting that Majora's Mask model on a 3DS game and kind of experimenting with that, and then they just put it in Link's house as a clue to the next handheld Zelda game. But the fan theory side of me wants to believe that if you look at Ravio, which it's in Link's house, not Ravio's house, but it's kind of the same thing where they set up shop, and I believe that the situation kind of goes nicely with this, that Ravio is there to help Link. He can't do it by himself, like he can't save everyone by himself. The Happy Mask Salesman, he can't save everybody by himself. He gets Link to do it, the same as Ravio gets Link to do it. The Happy Mask Salesman sets up shop in Hyrule. He's a traveling salesman. He doesn't have his own actual place. He's always on the move. He's traveling. Ravio, he doesn't have his own place. He sets up shop in Link's house. He's kind of moving back and forth, trying to help Link. The Happy Mask Salesman sells items to help Link. Ravio sells items to help Link. One forms masks, but the masks, they can do stuff. He teaches Link songs to get new masks that have new abilities that can act as items, kind of like the bomb mask, or Ravio selling you the bombs. None of them really want to sell you the masks or the items. They want you to borrow them, or they give you the option to borrow and to buy them. Both wear the purple. Ravio wears his own little hat. Ravio looks like he could grow up into the Happy Mask Salesman. Maybe Ravio was the Happy Mask Salesman wearing a different mask, and he was just trying to help Link out on his adventure. Like he was in Ocarina of Time, he was trying to help Link in Majora's Mask, he was trying to help Link in one of the Oracle games. Who's to say that he wasn't trying to help Link in A Link Between Worlds, but he didn't want to show up as the Happy Mask Salesman. He was just wearing a mask and took the form of Ravio. Or maybe Ravio was taking the form of the Happy Mask Salesman, or Ravio is a new incarnation of the Happy Mask Salesman. There's so much going back and forth. And there's also Rupin from Skyward Sword, who acts a lot like the Happy Mask Salesman. So like, if you look at fan theories and stuff, there's enough evidence to suggest that the two characters are related. But as far as being official canon, I don't think there's really anything to go by in that. Yes, it was just an Easter egg. Next question comes from YouTube. The Itch Network asks, do you think Zelda was originally made with a cohesive story in mind? Absolutely not. You can tell that by the first Zelda game had an introduction story in the manual. There was no story at all within the actual game. Link's dropped into Hyrule and you get to do whatever you want to. In the second game, they started adding more dialogue and they started adding more story to it. It continued the story from the original. And then with the Link to the Past, it was supposed to be the third game in the series, but they made it a prequel because the first Zelda didn't really have enough story to carry on a franchise. So they made it a Link to the Past because it takes place before the original Zelda game. And it gives you that story, how Hyrule was created, all this stuff that is now looked at as the founding lore of the Zelda series. And as they went, they just kept on trying to make one-off Zelda games, and they looked at them as legends of their own right. They didn't look at them as a continuation of the story. And then eventually fans started connecting the games, and then Nintendo started doing the same, and they released Hyrule Historia. But they've said many times they don't work on the story of a game and then make the game. They work on the gameplay. What do you think is fun? What would be fun to do in this game? What is a new gameplay mechanic we can add that'll make this different from the last Zelda game? What would be a cool dungeon ideal? What would be an awesome puzzle design? What is a neat weapon that we can put in this game? That's what they focus on. And then after they get all the ideals they want to use for weapons, dungeons, items, puzzles, they build the story around the game and try to mold it all together. Which makes it kind of confusing when you try connecting all the stories from the different Zelda games. Now I think they put more of a focus on story, but I think gameplay comes first. But they definitely think of the story a lot more than they used to. Alright, final question comes from YouTube. Derpal Form Hyrule asks, do you think Zelda and Sonic will have another crossover? Unless it's a Mario Kart DLC or Mario Kart characters or Super Smash Brothers or some amiibo functioning game, like Mario Maker, or a game that's built around playing as your amiibo characters, kind of like Pokemon Rumble or something, or Skylanders. I don't think they will have a connection at all or another crossover at all. I think the DLC for Sonic Lost World or whatever it was called was just to kind of promote the game for Nintendo fans. It was a deal between Nintendo and Sega. I think it was meant to, again, promote this Sonic game to Zelda fans, promote the Zelda fans to Sonic games. They kind of got their clutches in there. People bought that game and bought the DLC just so they could play that level where Sonic is dressed as Link. A lot of people thought maybe Link in that game is what Link will look like in Zelda Wii U. I think it was just an iteration of the Skyward Sword Link. There's nothing really telling me that they'll have another crossover like that in the future. I don't see Zelda Wii U or any Zelda games getting DLC like that. Maybe the next Sonic game will have some sort of DLC to where it'll be Zelda or Mario or something, or maybe they'll go with different Sega games. You can't really tell on this. I don't think anyone ever expected that DLC to happen, and I don't think anyone really expects it to happen again, especially since Sega has even admitted that Sonic isn't doing as well as a lot of people think. It's kind of an outdated game. No one really likes it, unless you're like a new kid being introduced to it for the first time. Sonic doesn't really have the hardcore fans that it used to. I would honestly expect to see a Metroid or a Mario game or Kingdom Hearts with Link before we see a Sonic game with Link again. Alright guys, so that's it for this episode. Leave your questions for future videos in the comments below. Let me know who you would like to see answering your questions in the comments. You can, if you're watching this video on the Zelda Amino app, I would prefer you to click on the actual video and leave your comments in the video because they are the priority for the YouTube channel. And it helps me out as well. But if you leave your comments on the Zelda Amino app itself, then I will get to them as well. They don't take priority, but just as in this episode, I will get a few of the questions from the Zelda Amino app. I'll get a few from Twitter, I'll get a few from Facebook, and I'll get most of them from the actual YouTube comments. So again, thank you for watching. Let me know what questions you want answered in future videos. Let me know what or who you would like to see answering your questions. ARMFH, CZ, HMK, Commonwealth Realm. Anyone's open. Thank you for watching. Hey everyone, welcome to the end of the video. I want to thank you all for watching it all the way through. This is the end slate, or the part of the video where I'm supposed to say something clever to convince you to subscribe or watch another one of my videos. So if you liked what you've seen here, then I have another top 10 video where I go over the top 5 lies that Nintendo has told their fans, which is interesting if you're into that sort of thing. And then if you're into Zelda or just Nintendo games in general, I have another awesome video that I'm really proud of where I collaborated with Yuri of Wind, HMK, McIntyre Productions, and several others to come up with a Zelda theory on who built Hyrule. We all know Hyrule from the game's overworld. In most Zelda games, it's the world that you're in, and you never really stop and think who actually built all of this. So we worked together, Yuri of Wind, HMK, McIntyre Productions, and we recorded this theory. I hope you guys like it. And last but not least, I want to take the time to thank my Patreons for actually making this video possible. If it wasn't for their support on patreon.com/GameOverJesse, then I wouldn't have really had the time to put forth to actually make this video. So thank you Alex Myers, Gus Calvo, Jonathan, The Itch Network, and Julio Rodriguez. Thank you all for your support and contributions on patreon.com. And if you would like to help support this channel as well to help me create videos like this, or give me ideas, or even be in some of my videos, please head over to patreon.com/GameOverJesse.